I'm not going to lie, I've always known that I'm different and special. Since I was little, I got used to being the center of attention. I was the prettiest at all the family gatherings, the most admired at birthday parties, the girl others wanted to imitate, and the one boys wanted to conquer. That's why, when I turned 30 and realized that I still didn't have the lifestyle I deserved, I decided to take matters into my own hands. That was when Elio appeared. I met him at a charity gala to which I had been invited by a friend of my mother's. He was not particularly attractive, to be honest. He was a corpulent man with a face marked by acne and a mustache that reminded me of that character, Coqui Loco. His hands were rough, always slightly sweaty, and he had a slow way of speaking that made me nervous, but his eyes shone when he looked at me, as if he couldn't believe that a woman like me was near him. I won't deny it. I felt powerful, no longer just beautiful. Rogelio owned several businesses, something in construction, something in transportation. I didn't care about the details. The important thing was that he had money, and not just any amount. His bank account was a direct passport to a life of luxury, trips to Europe, dinners in expensive restaurants, jewelry, and designer handbags. Everything I had only seen in magazines. He showered me with gifts from the very beginning. His instincts as a businessman had given him experience. He knew he didn't have the looks to attract attention, and he wasn't particularly interesting either. If he wanted me to notice him, he had to buy my attention. At first, I found it ridiculous. Every time he gave me a necklace or a bracelet, I faked an excited smile while thinking, "Do you really think you can buy me with this?" But of course, I didn't reject him. If he wanted to play the role of my provider, I wasn't going to stop him. When he proposed to me, it wasn't a surprise. What surprised me was how disgustingly tacky his proposal was. A trip to Venice, a gondola decorated with flowers, and him kneeling with difficulty because of his weight. For a moment, I wondered if I could tolerate his presence daily, his loud laugh, his clumsy way of walking. But then I thought about my dream house, the cars, the vacations. I knew I could get used to it. Besides, he would often disappear for several days or even weeks due to his business dealings. And well, they say disgust fades with a good Chanel. We got married in a lavish ceremony. During the first few months, I could barely stand being near him. His way of eating made me nauseous, those sounds he made while chewing as if he were crushing stones. When he kissed me, his mustache scraped my skin like sandpaper. At night, I invented headaches to keep him at a distance. However, something curious began to happen over time. Rogelio was not stupid. He listened when I talked about my plans, my tastes, my dreams. I was surprised to discover that he remembered small details, things I had shared in moments of nostalgia. Sometimes he would come home with unexpected gifts, not a necklace or a bag, but something that truly showed he had been thinking about me. And no matter how ugly a guy is, we like that. One time after an argument with my mother, I was overwhelmed. Without saying anything, Rogelio hugged me. It was clumsy, yes, but for the first time, I didn't feel repulsed. In fact, it felt nice. I don't know exactly when it happened, but I began to see him differently. His laughter no longer irritated me as much, and I even found a strange comfort in the way he worried about everything. Sometimes when he slept deep beside me, I would watch him in the dark and wonder how it was possible for someone like him to love me so much, knowing the kind of person I truly was. Now, as I write this, I realize that my relationship with Rogelio began as a silent contract. I accepted his money, and he accepted my company. But over time, something changed. I began to grow fond of him, almost without realizing it. His gestures, his dedication, and the way he made me the center of his world, all of it started to soften a part of me that I thought was untouchable. However, along with that affection, something else began to emerge, something I hadn't expected. Fear. Not fear of rejection or the future, but fear of Rogelio himself. I started noticing things I had overlooked before. For example, he had a disturbing way of staring at me when speaking about me in front of others, not as his beautiful and almost unattainable wife, but as if I were just another one of his possessions. One afternoon, during an insignificant argument about a trip I wanted to take alone, his voice hardened in a way that sent a chill through me. "You are never alone," he told me with a tense smile I didn't recognize. At that moment, I realized something. He knew. I had believed I had everything under control, But Rogelio had known all along. Before I married him, I had been involved with someone else, someone I prefer not to name. A man I was truly attracted to, who drove me crazy, but who could never give me the life I wanted. For a long time, I thought I had kept it hidden. But that day, Rogelio shocked me with something unexpected. "Jealousy of your lover is useless," he said in a quiet, deliberate tone. My heart stopped. For an instant, I tried to fake surprise, even indignation, but Rogelio raised a hand before I could say a word. "You don't need to deny it. I've known for a long time, almost from the beginning." He leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. His eyes didn't blink, and his voice carried an eerie calmness. "You see, I am not stupid. If I were, you wouldn't have everything you have. I know why you are with me. I have always known. But I also know what I want, and what I want is for you to stay." My mouth went dry. I didn't know what to say. Rogelio continued as if he were enjoying the moment. "I understand why you sought him out, but that doesn't mean I can't give you everything you need." He paused, and his smile widened, though this time it wasn't kind at all. "Everything you need." A shiver ran through me. For the first time, I noticed how the warmth that usually emanated from him had vanished. His voice had an edge, as if each word were a threat disguised as understanding. "I propose something," he said, leaning back in his chair with unsettling calm, as if he were merely suggesting a change to the breakfast menu. "You keep seeing your lover, but this time, openly, with me present." I stared at him in disbelief. Without a doubt, those were words I never expected to hear from him. "Listen carefully. A relationship of 3. Let's explore, open ourselves to new possibilities together. I want to truly know you, your desires, your limits, and I also want to know your lover. I'm sure we can find a balance that works for everyone." "Why would you do something like that?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. "Because I want you to be a part of my world completely. I don't want lies or secrets between us. And because, darling," he leaned forward, his smile growing even more disturbing, "what you have, I control." His words hung in the air, heavy, suffocating. It was no longer just Rogelio speaking. It was something else, something I didn't understand, but that terrified me. He didn't get angry. He didn't yell. He didn't humiliate me. But at that moment, I wished he had, because what he did was worse. He simply took a sip of wine, as if he had just proposed a simple change of holiday plans. I felt the ground crumble beneath me. Rogelio didn't want to lose me, not because he loved me, but because he already considered me his. And in his world, that meant there was no escape. You have to learn to read contracts. Even marriage, signing in exchange for money and gifts, can have serious consequences. I didn't read what I signed, and now I am not only his wife, I am his partner, and also his accomplice. Convincing my lover was the easy part. Rogelio showered him with expensive gifts, money, and privileges. He liked his new life, an apartment, a luxury car, lavish trips, all paid for by my husband. He enjoyed it. In fact, he seemed to enjoy it more than I did. Until he didn't. Beauty fades with time, and you can do everything to delay it. But when beauty is taken from you, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And even less when you are part of it. My husband is a monster, a damn maniac, a dog, a drug addict, a masochist. The marks on his face were not caused by acne. They were slight burns, scars from all the times he played with fire. He didn't manage to save his first wife. She burned to death in one of the apartments he owned by the sea. The column of black smoke made national news. Because of the building's height, the firefighters couldn't reach her in time. And yes, Rogelio collected her life insurance. His parents suffered a similar fate. Their truck overheated and caught fire on the way to one of his ranches. In that case, he was the universal heir. These days, I can no longer show my face. The tears no longer fall like they used to. Now, they pour down like a river, fast, unstoppable, because of the scars left by the melting of my skin. My beauty is being taken away, slowly. Through his games. His games always involve fire. I haven't heard from my lover since that trip he and Rogelio took to Cuba. I want to believe he's alive, that he forgave me for dragging him into this horrible world, where gold chains with diamond inlays turned into chains of burning iron, like the symbol of Rogelio's company. I know exactly how much my life is worth to him. I thought it was a source of pride. What I didn't know was that he was simply securing a return on his investment. Soon, I will lose my hands. and my story will never be told again. I just want you to know that the next time you watch the news and they say the flames consumed the life of someone who seemed to have it all, maybe that person is me. I don't deserve sympathy, but I know I will pay for my choices, because everything in this life must be paid for, even love. Yes, even love, especially if it was for convenience. And if you've made it to the end of this twisted story, let me ask you, would you ever be with someone out of convenience? Or do you know someone who did, and it ended in tragedy? Tell us in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.